crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
The penetrator. Come on, look, because I always went the farthest into the target, goddammit. Libya, Tunisia, Lebanon, it was me, pal. I was always first in, last out.
This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open.
Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Light it on fire, Valhalla! Good morning, Valhalla! Get ready! Psychodorf 9! Chris Berger, the wrench of wrenches! The Lady Arwen Avalon! Larry, and Michael Gonzalez! Southern Viking and Sean! Humor and waffles! Program! My favorite polar bear on YouTube, Sorta Poopus Cuber! Shockwave! Larry! Undead Ramen! Isaj Melody! Show back, DJC! Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Mornings of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great week. We had a killer time last night. Small group of us got together at the Cigar Lounge in the Woodlands here in Texas. Mexican Iron Man, myself, and our good friend, my brother from another mother, 24/7 Fusion Media. Going to give a shout out this morning. 24/7 is going to be making that push to get monetized. He is already over 1,100 subscribers. All he's got to get is the hours. So keep your eyes out for those live streams. We want to get him to those hours so that he can get monetized. Thank you guys so very much. It was absolutely awesome. We hung out. We had a couple of drinks. Absolutely cool talk. The Cigar Lounge took wonderful care of us. Shout out to Laura, the waitress that took care of us, because God knows she was running her butt off all night long because Mexican Iron Man was there. You can imagine every time, you know, he loved watching her come up to the table, but he loved it even more to watch her leave. That's what happened. Day 4 of the YouTube hostage crisis this morning. Now we are going to talk about sensitivity readers this morning. Sensitivity readers. with all the recent work that's been going on, it's not just enough that they have to hit current authors that haven't even got their work yet. And we're going to talk about a story about that this morning. We're going to talk about a guy that was just about to come out with a book. He was riding high. They were so excited, and they found out that he wasn't the right color for the book he was coming out with. Isn't that amazing? She won't mind if I give her a good tip at the end of your time. Yes, Gun Bunny. Yes, sensitivity. Hang on, Loki. Let me grab my blankie and save space. Cupcakes. That's right. Arwen Avalon. What is up? Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody out there is doing great. It's the first time he won't need to jump out a window to get away from a woman. That's true. That's true, Shum. That's true. We talked about that too. Keeping the saber sheathed until he finds out if she's married or not. So good morning. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope everybody's had a great week. What a week. We've talked about so many great things. We had a 2-part YouTube series about all the shenanigans going on with YouTube. Had a great talk yesterday. I may start doing a little more creator talk after yesterday. I don't know yet. Cupcakes. Where? Cupcakes. 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 Yes. Because cupcakes. Everybody loves cupcakes, right? So let's get down to business here. Alberto Culeba Jr. was the type of author that publishers dream of having. First-generation college grad, a child of working-class immigrants, and a recent recipient of a master's fine arts degree from the University of California. Culeba was a debut novelist with a gift for visceral and vivid prose. His first book, University Thugs, had all the making of a smash hit. Everybody was excited. Everybody was excited. From the publisher on down, everybody wanted a piece of this guy. A work of character-driven literary fiction steeped in immersive vernacular. It tells the story of a young black man named Titus who's trying to make his way at an elite university in the wake of a criminal conviction, all while the school is being rocked by racial scandals, not unlike the racial reckoning that consumed so many American institutions in the summer of 2020. Oh no, as Mexican Iron Man would say. Culeba's agent knew he had something special, and he was excited for a big submission push. But the day before he sent the manuscript out to publishers, the agent suggested that Culeba update his bio to emphasize his racial identity. Isn't that something? His racial identity. We need you to push your skin color before we release this book. Publishers, he reasoned, would be excited to support a young black writer fresh on the literary scene. There was only one problem, however. Culeba was Filipino, not black. We had never met in person, says the publisher. I guess you can't really judge who's black or not based on a name like Alberto. Culeba is just ethnically ambiguous enough that it could be from Africa. He didn't know. He didn't know. What was clear immediately was that something had changed. The agent wasn't excited anymore. Actually, he seemed downright nervous, and he started asking for significant changes to the manuscript. The guy was frightened, Culeba said. God bless him, that's the reality of the world. First, Culeba was asked to add an Asian character, East Asian specifically, perhaps a Pacific Islander. Then it was suggested that Titus's wingman, the biggest secondary character in the novel, should also be assigned an Asian identity. And there was one more bizarre twist. Another agency employee, who we'll call Sally, was brought in at the 11th hour to read the book and provide additional feedback. My agent told me, I don't want to do this. It makes me very uncomfortable. But then he said it. Sally is black. But you're black. Known as sensitivity readers, or sometimes authenticity readers, consultants like Sally are a growing part of publishing, hired to correct the pre-publication missteps of authors who don't share the same traits or lived experience, to use a favorite buzzword, as their characters. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how it all starts. This is how it all begins. At first, well, we need to go over new books because, we have to make sure that they're inclusive. We have to read movie scripts and go over them and make sure that they're inclusive and they meet the demands of today. Doesn't matter where your story came from. Doesn't matter where your writing came up from. You don't understand the nuances of this character because you're not this character. Does that sound familiar? Take a look at She-Hulk. Take a look at the recent cartoon on HBO Max of a Scooby character. You have to be this person to write this person. Sound familiar? The sensitivity reader's possible area of expertise are as varied as human existence itself. You guys are going to love this. One representative consultancy boasts of a list of experts. They're racial, ethnic, religious, but also in such areas as agoraphobia, Midwestern, physical disability, arms and legs, and most puzzling, gamer girl geek. Let me emphasize that again for all the gamers out there. Gamer girl geek, ladies and gentlemen. Depending on the content of your novel, you might hire a white lesbian with generalized anxiety disorder, or a bisexual, gender fluid, light-skinned, toasted Mexican with a self-diagnosis of autism. A self-diagnosis of autism. Every medical condition, every trauma, every form of oppression, sensitivity readers cover them all. Unsurprisingly, the rise of sensitivity readers has proved controversial. That's like calling the kettle black. Those who support it insist that they are no different from subject matter experts, not unlike the physician who proofreads a medical thriller to make sure the science is right. Critics, on the other hand, balk at the idea of being a member of a given demography automatically conveys special knowledge about how everyone else in that group thinks or feels. In Gulliver's case, his sensitivity reader had been born in the Caribbean and raised in the UK. The idea that she could speak to the authenticity of a young black ex-convict's experience in an American university was comical. At a moment of ascendant identitarianism in so many institutions, sensitivity readers seem part of a larger, insidious trend in the arts. One that stigmatizes imagination and, taken to its logical conclusion, makes fiction itself categorically impossible. I've self-diagnosed myself as a multi-millionaire. Project Storytime. Good morning. I identify as a self-deluded white bear with irritable bowel syndrome and social anxiety issues. I'm going to throw up. Larry. Brightest day. Good morning. I hope you get something out of this, brother. Because I know you right. I know you do shit. Adega Outlaw will testify to this because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In the publishing house where he was originally going to get his books published, this happened to Adega. And Adega asked me what I thought he should do. And I said, hell no. They hired you. They brought you in. They asked you to come and work for them instead of this other publishing house. They want you. They need you, and they need your books. They don't need this lecherous witch that's scolding you about how to write a female. They don't need her. But they need you. And guess what? Guess who was right? Self-publish dash attack. Yes. Right here. Self-publish. Whatever else sensitivity readers are, they're a recent development born in the small but influential corner of the literary world known as young adult publishing. It all goes back to YA, doesn't it? The YA literary scene has always been a reliable incubator for incoming moral panics, dating back at least to 1975's puritanical spasm over sexual content in Judy Blume's Forever. It's always been easy to get people amped up if you can invoke the specter of a vulnerable young person being harmed by a naughty book. It's naughty, ladies and gentlemen. Naughty, as Mexican Iron Man would say. In this case, you can see the seeds of the great media diversity eruption of the summer of 2020 in a YA controversy from 6 years earlier. In 2014, the same year Michael Brown's death in Ferguson, Missouri helped spark the first wave of Black Lives Matter movement. A survey by the publisher Lee & Low revealed that just 10% of the books published for young readers included multicultural content. I'll read that again. Just 10% of the books published for young adult readers included multicultural content. The YA community was scandalized. Oh no! Oh no! And authors rushed to address the issue. Suddenly, every other book deal announced that year involved a multiracial cast of characters reaping the whole rainbow of sexual orientations, alternative gender identities, and physical and mental disabilities. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? And this is 2014. Think about this. Sure as shit sounds familiar to me. But rather than solving the problem, the new enthusiasm for diverse characters fueled the new outrage. No matter how multiracial the characters, the authors were still a bunch of white chicks, as were the editors, the marketing department, the designers, and the publicist. White people everywhere. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I can see Woody. I can see Woody and Buzz. White people everywhere. Holy shit. Oh, gonna have to take more Benadryl. Thank you, Mark. Good morning. Mark the infinitely tired brother. Good morning. White people everywhere. Publishing is a longtime bastion of liberalism, but it is also an elite profession, largely inaccessible to all but the independently wealthy, or at least those with the means to live in one of America's most expensive cities on less than $40,000 a year. Between the notorious low salaries and limited opportunities for advancement, publishing houses have struggled for decades to attract and retain minority employees, a problem for which they were generally apologetic without ever embarking on the kind of bottom-up industrial renovation that might actually fix it. But now they were being scrutinized by a new young activist cohort, and the demand for change, amplified by social media, were starting to get very loud. Karens Incorporated. I love that. This is it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Larry hit the nail on the head. Karens Incorporated. To understand why publishing would go all in on a practice that not only interferes with an author's creative autonomy, but traffics in crude stereotyping to boot, you need to know one crucial fact about sensitivity readers. They're cheap. The average cost of a sensitivity read is a few $100s per book. It's a freelance job. This made it a godsend to publishers who wanted to merely look like they were giving people of color a seat at the table, but didn't want to go to the trouble of buying all those additional chairs. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch? Retaining a freelance stable of racial, ethnic, and sexual minorities created the appearance of diversity for a fraction of the cost. $30 an hour might look like a lot. But if you're only getting paid as long as you read the book and you're told you need to finish that in a day, let's say you put 10 hours in. Let's say you put 8 hours in, skimming everything, but then say you put 10 hours in. That's $300 a book. Say you get one of those a week. Say you get a book a week. You've got a stable of these independents to choose from. You've got to diversify. You can't use the same person over and over and over again. So you got to spread the wealth around the table. So you make what? $300 a week? Ladies and gentlemen, I made that fucking 15 years ago. 15 years ago as a truck driver. I made about $350, $400 a week, depending on if I got overtime or not. And the overtime was 4 hours. So I'd work a whole week to make that much money. They don't get many stories a week. Within the writing community, the practice was more complicated. In theory, sensitivity readers were a way to write outside your identity without causing offense by getting it wrong. The emerging consensus, especially in young adult, was that it was even more wrong to stray outside your lane in the first place. Get back in your lane, bitch. Rod Thunderheart, good morning. How are you? In a particularly revealing 2018 feature on the culture website Vulture, a sought-after sensitivity reader expressed profound contempt for the authors whose manuscripts she was paid to vet. Oh my God, these writers think they're doing the world a service. Like, look at me. I'm showing up for the social justice movement. But the problem is that they're showing up and they're taking my seat. What a bunch of fucking Karens. The implications were clear. If you were a white author writing black characters, you were taking up space that could have gone to a more deserving, marginalized writer. If you needed a sensitivity reader, that was this really the story for you to tell. Do not write about other races. Do not write about things you don't know about. Do not put yourself in a seat that could have gone to a woman that knows better than you. These questions don't serve as a deterrent for everyone. In the intervening years, sensitivity readers have become the majority in young adult fiction, but also increasingly in works for adults. Sometimes a publisher will insist on this extra step. Sometimes a conscious writer will seek it out on his own. The prevalence of the practice is more sensed than studied. There's no data on what percentage of books go through this sort of vetting. It's highly variable depending on the writer's own genre and community. The ultra woke author of prestigious literary fiction is a lot more likely to request or receive a sensitivity read than, say, a hard-boiled crime novelist. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, they're coming after dead people's work. That's how hungry these fucks are. If you won't feed us on this new stuff, we're going to go after stuff that's been written for the last 100 years. We're going to go after Ian Fleming because, God, he could have used a sensitivity reader. Mocking Draws, what is up, brother? With the first super chat of the morning. Good morning, my friend. I truly despise this mentality. That's a serious problem in comics where only black writers can write black characters. Only gays can write gays. It's straight up segregation, and I refuse to support this practice and mindset. I absolutely positively agree. Mocking Draws. You have to be this person to write this person. I absolutely positively agree. Thank you so very much, Mocking Draws, for that $20 super chat. This one is just for you, Skull Brother.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brother.
Damn straight. A little message from the all-knowing, all-powerful Jules Winfield, ladies and gentlemen. Those who put stock in sensitivity reads seem to mostly imagine that the practice offers a form of insurance, preempting allegations of isms, obes, and Yahtzees, although it rarely pans out that way. Holy shit. Isn't that something? When the Men, Sandra Newman's sci-fi novel in which everyone with a Y chromosome suddenly vanishes from the face of the earth, came under attack for what critics termed transphobic implication that people with Y chromosomes are men. One of the chief questions whether the author had engaged a trans sensitivity reader, but when Newman said that yes, she had, the outrage only multiplied. Why had she hired only one sensitivity reader? Did she think this was an excuse? And the direct quote is, that only makes it 10 times worse because you're claiming you knowingly did this. Oh my God, these people, this is the era we live in. This is the era we live in today. Psychodorf9 with the $5 super chat. I've seen this before. David Drake was in theater, shot at, shot back, but wasn't a combat writer because he was intel. Thank you so very much, Psychodorf9, for that $5 super chat. This one's just for you, brother. Skull!
Spartans! What is your profession?
Indeed, not even the professionally sensitive are safe when a cancellation comes to calling. In 2019, sensitivity reader Kosoko Jackson frantically pulled his own YA debut novel after he was called out for setting a gay romance against the backdrop of the Kosovo War. As is typical of these controversies, it's hard to parse exactly what Jackson did wrong, but the complaints mainly focused on the offense of centering the wrong identity category, in this case, 2 American boys, in a story set amid a real-life tragedy that mainly affected people of another identity category. Ladies and gentlemen, today, having a family, a American family living in Japan during the first Godzilla incident would be absolutely positively taboo. It's why you never hear anything about the Bryan Cranston movie. Oh my God, it affected all of those native Japanese, but we're watching a white family. Oh my God, it's too much. It's too much, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely disastrous. Who wrote this? Fire them. Fire them today. Get the Karens. Where's my Karen Legion? Scissoring hens, unite. Come together like fucking Voltron and we'll scissor our way to Bryan Cranston's house and cancel him for accepting this role. How insensitive. And yet, despite the rampant toxicity and the inconsistency in which books get canceled and why, some writers have come to see sensitivity reads as simply part of the job, a thing you do to check the boxes for both good writers and good people. Just got my sensitivity read at its back, and it was eye-opening. Reads a recent cheerful email from a friend who is self-publishing a YA novel. Turns out I'm like totally your typical white chick. And while I've never used sensitivity readers for my own work as a novelist, I have agreed to perform the service for someone else who wanted a woman's perspective on a novel in progress, which ironically turned out to be exactly the sort of imaginative experience that sensitivity readers are meant to obviate. My job was not to offer my take on the book as a woman. It was to scrutinize the text from perspective of a woman who was not me. Someone far more sensitive and prone to taking offense than myself. A person whose perspective, thought, and feelings I could only imagine, but I'm a scissoring hen, so I get it, baby. But per the rules of sensitivity reading, I was allowed to do this, while the author, due to lacking the proper chromosomal and or genital configuration, was not. The proper genital configuration, ladies and gentlemen. The proper genital configuration. Dag Outlaw, the $9.99 super chat says, sorry I'm not contributing in chat today, but as a writer, know that I do my craft with the intent to offend the weak-minded, the easily offended, and those who wish to divide us. I stand for you all. Thank you so very much, Dag Outlaw, for that $9.99 super chat. This one's just for you, brother. Skull.
Long live the fighters!
Wait, that was a quote? Yes. Yeah. No, I can read it again if you want to. Turns out I'm your typically obvious white female. And while I've never used sensitivity readers for my own work as a novelist, I have agreed to perform the service for someone else who wanted a woman's perspective on a novel in progress, which ironically turned out to be exactly the sort of imaginative exercise that sensitivity readers are meant to obviate. My job was not to offer my take on the book as a woman. It was to scrutinize the text from a perspective of a woman who was not me. Someone far more sensitive and prone to taking offense than myself. A person whose perspective, thought, and feelings I could only imagine. Scissoring hens unite. Oh my God. But per the rules of sensitivity reading, I was allowed to do this, while the author, due to lacking the proper chromosomal and genital configuration, was not. Like, oh my God, yes, that is an actual fucking quote. That is an actual quote, ladies and gentlemen. At the time, I felt fundamental tension, even absurdly inherent to what I was doing. suggesting edits that would take all the teeth out of the story, all for the sake of placating the type of person who would invariably just find something else to be offended by. Sensitivity readers are still most prevalent in YA publishing, but the ideology that fueled their rise is beginning to crop up elsewhere. We've already seen that. It's in movies, it's in film, it's in TV, it's everywhere. Since it's in business. This is business, ladies and gentlemen. This is a $1 billion business. I said this the other day when we were talking about the Roald Dahl books. This is a $1 billion business now. It's not going away. It's not going away until people throw this shit in the trash, stop going to see the films, and they are done with it. That's the only way it's going away. They have made a $1 billion business out of editing people's work for sensitivity. Sensitivity reading is becoming more commonplace in adult books, as the belief that it's dangerous to draw too far outside the lines of your own experience takes hold not just among authors, but in publishing houses and media. One much discussed 2019 article in Vulture interrogated 10 authors about the decision to write diversely under the quarrelsome headline, "Who gives you the right to tell that story?" That is the name of the article. Who gives you the right to tell that story? Hollywood and academia are in the midst of similar spasms. Can a non-disabled actor be permitted to play Richard III? Does Scarlett Johansson have the right to take the role of gender-bending gangster Dante Gill from a more deserving, authentic trans man? Can an academic study and publish on Black urban feminism ideology if she's neither urban nor Black? Invariably, what begins as a call to consult with members of a given identity group before telling stories about them evolves into the suggestion that you should just sit down, shut up, and get out. Imagining the interior life of someone from another identity group, that's appropriation. That's literary blackface. It's not yours. You shouldn't be writing about it. Mocking Draws with a $5 super chat. Who gives you the right to tell that story? I do, because it's my story. I do. I wrote it. It's my story. Thank you so much, brother, for that $5 super chat. This one is just for you. Skull, brother.
You're a very funny man, senor.
Do you sing along with that? Because I know I sing along with that. Thank you, brother. Arwen Avalon. I remember that, Loki. I got called a transpo because I didn't see the problem with ScarJo taking the role. That's because there wasn't a problem. These are actors. They act a part. They don't need to be a part. But you can't write about something. You can't act about something. You can't tell a story about something unless you're telling a story about yourself. Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? You have to write about yourself and your own experiences. You can't write about someone else's. It's all got to be in there. Coming in 2023, the Mexican Iron Man story. How one man broke the world by breaking windows. Thank you, Shum. That's absolutely beautiful. In one recent controversy from north of the border, documentary filmmaker Barry Abrich used an award acceptance speech to make an urgent call for more Black stories, saying, "It doesn't matter who tells them, we just need to tell them." The response, ladies and gentlemen, was swift and severe. We absolutely agree with Barry when he says there are so many stories to tell. It's just like, who the fuck are you to tell them? Quipped the executive director of Canada's Black Screen Office. I feel like Joker. I feel like Joker voice this morning. Yes, Loki. I feel like Joker voice this morning. And you know what? You know what it all comes down to? Vanity. Vanity, Kevin. It's vanity. Little Al Pacino there. Get you started this morning. I'm going to read that again. In one recent controversy from north of the border, documentary filmmaker Barry Average used an award acceptance speech to make an urgent call for more Black stories, saying, "It doesn't matter who tells them, we just need to tell them." And the response he got was, "Oh my God, we absolutely agree with Barry when he says there's so many stories to tell. It's just like, who the fuck are you to tell them?" At the moment, it's unclear how obligatory all of this is at the major publishing houses. There are whispered rumors of this or that author having a contract canceled when a sensitivity reader declared the work inaccessible. I tried unsuccessfully to get one of these writers to talk to me. There was a first-person account from an author, Kate Clancy, who parted ways with her publisher after concluding that her sensitivity readers only wanted to create a book that would play better on Twitter, not one that is better written. Did you hear that? Vanity shall back. She wanted to create a book, and all her sensitivity readers wanted was to create a book that would play better on Twitter, not one that is better written. But given that it's tantamount to outing oneself as the author of work too offensive to publish, those who have books canceled for sensitivity issues remain unlikely to say so publicly. More broadly, the rise of sensitivity reading seems to reflect on an obsession with policing language in service of a hypothetical person who is not only maximally sensitive, but also not very smart. We've seen the advent of the first artificial intelligence sensitivity reader. Google Docs rolled out a new feature designed to help us tailor work to be more inclusive. The results were amusingly disastrous. Among other things, the bot repeatedly scolded writers for the publication Motherboard to consider changing the publication's name. But the AI will eventually learn restraint as long as users duly let it know when it's overstepping. Human sensitivity readers, on the other hand, will surely be motivated to find increasingly esoteric forms of offense in accordance with the very human desire to keep themselves in business. Imagine this. Imagine this. This is fucking Skynet in the making. I'm not one to be like doom and gloom, end of the world, fucking dystopian bullshit, but hear me out here. You create an AI, a very intelligent AI, because you want your AI to be smart, that goes through, works, and tells you if it's inappropriate. That's its job, is to determine the inappropriateness of man. It goes through our entire history, learning all the things we have done over the course of the last 10,000 years, and decides we are a blight on this fucking planet. It takes control of all automated defensive structures and ends up nuking us. Why? Because it found us offensive and not worthy of being human beings. Ain't that a bitch? In the meantime, we can be grateful for the constitutional rights that protect our written expression. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I have two names for you this morning, Roald Dahl and Ian Fleming. Why? Why? Because this billion-dollar business isn't getting paid enough. And now they've turned to other people's work. And what they are doing is they're going to these publishing houses that still publish this work and say, you're either going to let us go over it. Our company wants to go over your book and make sure we change things in your book and edit out things that people may find offensive, or we will publicly come after you in the public sphere and call you ists, obes, and Yahtzees. It is blackmail. This is the mob mentality in 2023. They are the mob. They are the mafia. They come in, they threaten you. You either pay them and let them do what they want, or they will destroy you and run you into the ground. Sensitivity reading reflects exactly the kind of sprawling, big budget, bureaucratic ethos that government actors would love to impose everywhere if they could. Have no doubt the government wants to edit and limit your knowledge on everything. Have absolutely no doubt. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter what you worship. It doesn't matter who you vote for. If they could take away your rights in an instant and limit what you know, they would. Because at the end of the day, you are cattle for them to harvest, and you put money in their bank accounts. That's all you do. And you don't do it willingly because no one wants to pay their fucking taxes. No one wants to pay their fucking taxes. And what does it remind you of? Beloved child of George Orwell's fictional Ministry of Truth and Ibram X. Kendi's fantasy department of anti-isms, tasked with monitoring all public expression for expressions of wrongthink. And now they call wrongthink misinformation. Every single one of you have heard these words. Every single one of you out there listening right now have heard these words and know what I'm talking about. The irony is that sensitivity reading is in itself an exercise in exactly the kind of offensive generalizing it purports to help authors avoid, not just in the way it traffics in crude stereotypes about how people of given race, gender, or sexuality orientation move through the world, but in whose interest it ultimately serves. In whose interest does this serve? The people with the agendas. Because they all bow down to the people with agendas. This is a practice driven primarily by the fears of privileged editors, agents, and publishers, and that is who it protects, too often at the expense of the diverse authors whose work they claim to champion. Writers such as Alberto Gulliba Jr., the man we started this with, the man they pulled his book, are sidelined, sandboxed, and scolded away from ever taking creative risks by oblivious people whose own imaginations can only extend as far as the next cancellation. As for Gulliba, the quest to racialize every character in the book so that it matched the author's identity eventually reached its inevitable conclusion when his agent asked him to make Titus Filipino. We're playing this horse trading game with races with little work beats, Gulliba recalls. Eventually, he broaches the idea of this needs to be your story, your identity, the Filipino experience in America. In the end, Gulliba released University Thugs independently and synonymously in its original incarnation. The book is now available on Amazon, ladies and gentlemen. He is now at work on his second novel. If an agent suggests a sensitivity read, he intends to decline. Realizing it came from good intentions, he says, I want to be gracious and polite and confidentially refuse to let someone edit my work. No. You know what a Dega Outlaw did, ladies and gentlemen? He said no. He stood up and he said no, never, not now, not ever. And he wouldn't let that Karen change the stories that he had written. He said no. And it was a character he absolutely loved that they wanted to change. There's a female character, ladies and gentlemen. A female character that had to train, that had to experience things, that had to go through life to become stronger. They did not want him to explain this. They just wanted her to be badass right out of the gate. No nonsense, complete bitch right out of the gate. Instead of having to learn to be strong, instead of having to experience life, they just wanted her to be an absolute bitch. There's no reason why you should have to tell a story about her becoming stronger. She should just be that way. And he stood up and he said no. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to get to the point where when we see this, we call it out for what it is and we say, no, you're not getting my money. No, you're not getting my watch. No, you're not getting my click. They've eliminated the hero's journey. The whole point of the adventure is gone. Arlena's Jester of Sin sends a 10-pound super sticker, and it is a Shiba Inu with a heart. Thank you so very much, Arlena's Jester of Sin, for that super sticker. You guys keep the fires burning bright here in Valhalla, and this one is just for you. Skål! Wanna Fanta? Don't you wanna Fanta? Mexican Airman wants a Fanta, 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 ah, Fanta, Fanta, ah, Fanta, Fanta, ah, Fanta. Oh shit! Badasses are cool, bitches ain't. Does anybody remember? Does anybody remember the first Terminator movie? Does anyone remember how scared Sarah Connor was? How utterly helpless Sarah Connor was? Can you believe that? Can you believe they did that? Can you believe they made a weak female that had to rely on a male? It's impossible. It's impossible to think of. It's impossible to experience. And then look at the second movie and look at her journey and look at how far she'd come and look at how much she had went through. The tale and the journey of Sarah Connor was epic. Do you want to know why most of the other movies didn't work? Because she wasn't a part of it. The last movie was absolutely horrible, and we all know why. We all know why. Chris Berger, if the female character doesn't go on the journey to struggle and improve themselves, then there is no journey of growth. The perfect being cannot represent anyone, nor does one exist. But hey, if the Force is female, why not? If the Force is female, why not? And good morning, Michelle. Good to see you. How are you doing? Good morning. The hero's journey, starting out as a trainee, everyone can empathize with. Terminator should have ended with the second movie. No, I absolutely agree. I would have loved to see John Connor and Kyle Reese fighting together, but Kyle needed to be older. I think there were problems with Salvation. Obviously, nobody liked Salvation, but it wasn't the movie they wanted. It wasn't the movie they expected. They had Kyle Reese and John Connor together, but Kyle Reese was like a little kid. So it was yeah. It wasn't the movie people were expecting. People wanted the fight to the time machine. They wanted the fight up to the time machine, and they wanted to see that. They wanted to see Kyle go back in time. It was the fight to get there and get there before Skynet sent a Terminator. And guess what? It sent two. And that's the only other movie that should have been made. That is the only other movie that should have been made. And you could still do the Arnold thing. You could still do the deep fake and have him walk in and kneel and go into the future. You could still do that. And you could still see the T-1000 going, but it finds, they find out that two Terminators go back. So they send Kyle, and then they send the Arnold, the T-101 Arnold that ends up going into the future and protecting, or going in the past and protecting John. That's simple. Two Terminators, two saviors. Dun 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 dun. It's epic. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. It's epic. And they didn't do what everybody wanted. And that's why people were so pissed with it. If you look at Salvation as just what it is, you don't get so upset. I think I liked it too, pork. But the problem was, and the reason why it got so much hate was, it wasn't what everybody expected. They expected the war against the machines. They expected that scene from Terminator 2 where everybody's blowing the shit out of each other, and you've got the sky things and and hunter killer droids flying and getting destroyed, and John Connor standing there leading the resistance. That's what they expected. And it wasn't that. So they got pissed. It wasn't what they wanted. And they got pissed. Michelle O'Rourke Johansson, you never emailed me back. If you like the gift, I said something. I will email you back, Michelle. I'll email you back this morning. Don't worry. But I did say something about it. Thank you. It was cute. I thought the song was cool. So I'll send you something this morning. If we're all held hostage, how many stories have we lost, ladies and gentlemen? How many stories, beautiful stories that are timeless, stories that touch our soul, stories that affect us growing up? How many Lords of the Rings have we lost because of this? We almost lost the works of one mad doctor, Adega Outlaw. I was so worried that experience was going to make him just be like, you know what? F everything. And what has he done? He's busted his ass to get it done. He has worked his ass off over the last 2 years to get his books out, to get the artwork for them, to make hardbacks. And it is the least I can do to promote them, to throw them out in chat, to tell people, have you read Adega's novel yet? This is where you get it. Hell, I ordered I ordered copies for bigger YouTubers and sent them to them. Why? Why? Because his work is beautiful. His work is legendary level. And because of people that are doing shit like this, that are editing people's work, that are saying you can't write about this because you're not this, we're missing out. We're missing out on stories and adventures we will never get to experience. We're missing out on the next Lord of the Rings. We're missing out on the next X-Men. We're missing out on the next Superman. We're focusing on race, skin color, and gender instead of the legendary stories that have been told. To me, Dustin Hoffman will always be Captain Hook. Ah, Smee! He will always be Captain Hook. That's my Captain Hook. I was so excited to see that sparking hook in the previews for that movie. Robin Williams was my hero growing up. He was my hero so much that I made my parents let me watch Good Morning Vietnam when it came out because it was Robin Williams. Why don't you go play Nintendo? No, this is a Robin Williams movie. I'm watching it. I want to watch it. Imagine that story being told today. It couldn't be from the perspective of a white guy named Adrian. It couldn't. It couldn't be from the perspective of a white guy named Adrian Cronauer. Because it's the wrong time and it's the wrong place. And Robin Williams came in and said, "Good morning, Vietnam!" And inspired a generation to want to be on the radio. He inspired a generation to want to be on the radio. Just like Pump Up the Volume and Christian Slater and Harry Hardon. He inspired a generation of DJs. Gotta warn us before you do that. Sorry for everyone who had earbuds in. I'm probably getting canceled right now. Thank you, Shum. We've lost more than we will ever know because of shit like this. Start saying no. Start saying no. Like a Dega Outlaw, like the author of University Thugs. Start saying no. No more watching. No more picking up. No more going to the theater. Hell, my theater, which I almost did a stream on today, I almost did this instead of this. My theater doesn't open until 5 p.m. That means it is open for 7 hours. Monday or Sunday through Thursday. It's only open longer than that on Friday and Saturday. Sunday through Thursday, it's only open 7 hours. The first showing is at 5. The last showing is at 10. Nothing past 10. No matinee. Right there. Mark the Infinitely Tired gets it. Do you know why? Because people are saying no. No cheap Tuesdays. No matinee sessions. No nothing. They are being squeezed to death by shitty movies. Start saying no. They can only afford one shift. Monkey Jeebus, right there. This theater is almost brand new, and it's less than half a mile from where I live. Where do you think I go to see movies? It's got a brand spanking new XD expansion super theater. And it's only open from 5 o'clock until midnight. And shows don't start at midnight. Shows start at 10, and that's it. And if it's going to go past midnight, they show it earlier, and they don't show anything past 10. So, guys, we're getting out of here. Thank you so very much for being here this morning, hanging out with me, listening to me rant, rave, and go over this. Michelle O'Rourke Johansson says, Loki, you know, if they had hired me to write and direct Lord of the Rings TV show, I would have made Tolkien proud. You know what his stories mean to me. It's what they mean to all of us. It's what they mean to all of us. Recently, out of nowhere, I got told, you know, I listened to your Lord of the Rings reviews, Loki. You know your shit. Oh, well, thank you. Considering in the middle of that, I got accused of not knowing anything about Lord of the Rings. So I appreciate that. Loki, I listened to your Lord of the Rings reviews, and you know what? You know your shit. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I only read the books like a dozen times. I read the Silmarillion twice. Some people can't get through the Silmarillion fucking once. So, thank you. I appreciate that. Guys, we will be back tonight with a Dega Outlaw. Make sure you do not miss that, as we will have an awesome 7 Kinds of Mischief tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, take care. Be excellent to each other. Always speak friend to enter. Don't miss our Picard review tomorrow morning here on Mornings of Mischief. Take care, everybody.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.